Hey guys, this is Damien Leone, writer, director of Terrifier 1 and 2. And
hi, this is Lauren LaVera. I play Sienna in Terrifier 2. And
hey there, horror fans. This is David Howard Thornton, Art the Clown himself from Terrifier and Terrifier 2, and you're listening to the Horror Squad podcast.
Hello, welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast. This is episode number 248. I messed that up last time. I don't remember what I said, but I think I was like 6 or 7 off. Tonight, we're talking about Terrifier 2. We also have 3 guests on tonight. If one of you boys wants to tell everyone who those people are.
Sure, I can do that. So yeah, we have 3 very special interviews with the cast and crew of Terrifier 2. Me and Steve were able to do the interviews. Very exciting. Number 1, we have the director himself, Damien Leone. Number 2, we have the new final girl, who we will be talking about later on today, Lauren LaVera, who played Sienna. And then last, but certainly not least, Art the Clown himself, David Howard Thornton. 3 great interviews. So definitely stick around, all you Art the Clown Terrifier fans, because we went into depth about Terrifier 2 and behind the scenes stuff and everything. So it was great. So stick around for those interviews.
Sweet. Did he talk about his Grinch movie coming up at all?
I don't remember. I think he may have briefly mentioned it, but we didn't go into that hadn't been announced yet, so we did not really go into detail about it.
I just saw it on Letterboxd today. I was like, oh shoot, this will be fun.
Yeah, it should be.
Yeah. So what else is going on, guys?
Not too much. It was I forgot to shout it out last week, but it was Canadian Thanksgiving this past weekend. So happy belated Thanksgiving to our Canadian listeners, and
give us the spread.
Typical, Thanksgiving stuff: turkey, mashed potatoes, gravy, roasted vegetables, and there was red cabbage, there was cranberry something, and just like regular, stuffing, the whole works. And the rest of the weekend, I basically just played video games and watched movies. I watched a lot of fucking 2022 horror movies in the last week, like something like 15. So I'm really plugging away at those, and yeah, it was fun. It was a good 3-day off weekend, so happy about that.
Very nice. Sam and I went to a thing called Halloween on the Hill, doing some spooky activities. We had never been before. Sam found it. I didn't know much about it, but it was really cool. You like walk through the woods, and they basically have like a ton of like carved out jack-o'-lanterns, and they play Halloween music and stuff like that. So it was really cool. It was just like a little walkthrough thing. It wasn't like a haunt, but it just like really had the spooky, woodsy Halloween vibe. So that was pretty awesome. So anyone local to the area, check it out. Halloween on the Hill in Beverly, Massachusetts.
Very cool. And let's see, I did a pumpkin patch over at like a local farm. Nothing scary, anything like that. They did have a maze, but it was like a foot high. So nothing crazy. You can step over everything, more for the kiddies. Pet some goats and some sheep, things like that. And, kids sports, Saturday we have football, and Sunday we have basketball. So that's always fun. I'm just ready for Halloween, man. We've watched a lot of like the baking shows on Food Network, making cool zombies or whatever. I love it. I love that stuff. Even though it's super cheesy, especially on Food Network with all their stupid costumes, it's such like, it's cool. It's fun. So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, I watched all of those as well. Just fucking love them.
How's Halloween Wars this season? Because I know last season it kind of sucked. So they ruined it still. Yeah.
Yeah. I hate, since Zach Baggins took over, it's not the same at all. But there's another one, I forget which one, because I watched so many of them, that basically is Halloween Wars. So it's like really the same show as Halloween Wars used to be, with a goofy host and no celebrity guests, which I really loved, having like celebrity horror guests and stuff like that. But yeah, it's a bummer, man. That show is just a shell of its former self since they changed it last year. Too bad.
Right. I watched a couple episodes of the Ultimate Pumpkin Carving thing that's on that same network, and that one's pretty fun. But they changed hosts. They had Allison Hannigan from American Pie, but they have a new host this year. But I kind of miss Allison Hannigan.
Couldn't afford it for season 2. There's no way. Just yeah, it's good though. I like it too. I like to see people's originality come through and stuff like that. So, Joe, this weekend we got event number 1 of 2. So
That's right.
you want to tell us a little bit about the event this weekend, and then, of course, our big event next weekend.
Of course, yeah. I can't believe it's finally here, folks. I mean, we're getting down to it. So if you're listening to this the day we release this on Friday, tomorrow, October 15th, our good friend of the show, Damien Maffei, is going to be coming to Salem, Massachusetts, signing at Silver Moon Comics from 1 to 5. So yeah, definitely come meet Damien. He'll have, Haunt merch and Strangers Pray at Night merch. And of course, his very new exciting project, he's going to be in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre video game. So he is going to have prints and stuff for that too. So definitely come and meet Damien 1 to 5, Silver Moon Comics, tomorrow, Saturday, October 15th. And then, of course, next week is, of course, the very big event, because the entire Horror Squad podcast will be there. Me, Steve, Todd, and former host Sam from Halloween Happy will also be there to hang out. But yeah, we are going to have, of course, Omri Katz, who played Max Dennison in Hocus Pocus. Just a completely full day for that. Once again, he will be signing at Silver Moon Comics from 1 to 5. And then if you were lucky enough to get tickets to our sold out screening now, we are going to be screening Hocus Pocus immediately, followed by a Q&A with Omri Katz, hosted by us, the Horror Squad podcast. So it is going to be just an incredibly fun day. Get there early, folks. Parking, I was out this weekend and all parking garages were full by 10 a.m. It was a madhouse down there. So definitely plan. Check out our social medias. I gave some tips on parking. We got there, public transportation, and we have some free satellite lots. Those are definitely going to be your best friends and best options to get into town. Don't take Salem around this time lightly, because trust me, it can be a nightmare for you if you don't follow the guidelines. So, but we look forward to seeing you all. We're going to have a bunch of free Horror Squad swag, and yeah, it's going to be a great time. So we look forward to seeing you at either one of the events.
Awesome. And just to put a cap on that, here it is from Omri himself. So Omri, take it away.
It's me, Omri Katz, aka Max from Hocus Pocus. Just here to let you know I'm going to be in Salem, Massachusetts on October 22nd at the Silver Moon Comic Store starting at 1 p.m. I'm going to be signing some autographs and meeting fans and whatnot. And then after that, there's going to be a special screening and a Q&A hosted by the Horror Squad podcast at Cinema Salem. So I really look forward to seeing you guys there, and don't miss it.
What watched?
Yes.
Who wants to lead off?
I'll go. I watched a whole bunch of movies, so it's a matter of picking which ones I feel like talking about. So let's start with the first one, 2022 film I watched over on Shudder, and it's called Deadstream. So this one is about a guy, he's a YouTuber, and he had a bunch of controversy and he got canceled. Then he had like a half-assed apology, and then this is his like return to form for his viewers and his listeners. So what he does as a channel is he takes these like extreme challenges and films them, and then he kind of, streams them on YouTube and stuff like that. So for this challenge, he decided to go overnight to a very haunted house, or as he puts it, the most haunted house in America that I could afford and that I could get to. So that's what he does. So he goes with his equipment into this haunted house, and then he starts putting cameras everywhere and telling the story of what happened in that house as he's talking to his people who are watching live on his live stream, and he interacts with them as well. And then shit starts happening, and I don't want to say too much more than that because it gets fucking crazy from there in ways that I personally didn't expect. I think this is the type of film that some people will love and some people hate, and not a whole lot of middle. I think it depends on if you're along for the ride. If you maybe they do a lot of play on live streamers and YouTubers and influencers and stuff like that. Like a lot of the jokes are about people like that, kind of making fun of those people in a way by presenting someone who's like that. And it's just, I personally really loved it. I was totally along for the ride. I was interested to know what would happen next because, like I said, this movie goes to places. And it was obviously a very low budget, but I think they utilized that low budget really well, just by masking stuff. I mean, some of the effects, they're all practical effects, but some of the, or mostly practical effects, are a little cheesy. You could tell there's not a ton of budget into it, but I appreciate them trying and stuff like that. There are a few like CGI type effects, but it's used that they had to do it that way. They couldn't practical effect the things that they did for that. And yeah, I just really dug this film. I was totally into it, and it's one of my favorites of the year, to be honest with you, because this is a movie that I didn't really plan to check out. I was kind of doing like work in my basement as it was playing, but then I just sat down and watched the whole thing because I was so interested in it. And for listeners of our other podcast, Let's XP Geeking Game podcast, this fucking felt like Resident Evil 7, the movie. The way he goes to the house and like the first hour or 2 hours of that game felt very much like this movie. So yeah, it's great, and I dig it. But like I said, it's not for everyone. So that's Deadstream over on Shudder.
Oh, let's hear Paul Allen's review of that, because I see you guys had opposite Paul Allen American Psycho reference. Joe, because you guys are like a point different on that. So what do you think about it?
I thought it was like okay. Like, I definitely didn't love it as much as Steve. Yeah, we were about I think Steve gave it 4. I gave it 2.5. For me, it just didn't hit the same. My issue is I just like it just reminded me of like Dash Cam from earlier this year, but like a less annoying main character. I mean, this character was still like annoying, but in like kind of a more a better sense to me. Most of the jokes didn't hit for me personally. I mean, also I might not have been in the right mindset when I watched it. I think I think I was looking for something a little different at the time when I put it on. I think you will like this, Todd, though, because it has big Evil Dead vibes. Like, I feel like they definitely, borrowed heavily from Evil Dead throughout the movie. But yeah, to me, it was just like okay. Like, I don't hate that I watch it. I'm not on the love or hate. I'm kind of just down the middle with this one. Not something I would really care to watch again, but I don't hate that I watched it either.
Cool. I have 3 real quick ones that I'll lump together because it's part of my my horror world tour. Because I got that map on Letterboxd, you just want to see all green. It's kind of annoying to have it all black, but there's a lot of countries out there, man, and some of them don't have any movies, which is a bummer. So we'll get there. But the first one will be The Demon. This one's from Mongolia, which is pretty cool to see some representation from there. It's your basic demonic possession movie where your friends go to the house that has a possessed person in it, and they have to do the exorcism. Decent. All these are going to be in the 2-star realm because especially cultures or whatever that are starting out making movies don't have the most budgets, and they're learning and borrowing a lot, so they're not going to be the best usually. The next one is from Kazakhstan, and that one's called In the Dark.
Not Borat?
No Borat in this one. This is another ghost/demonic kind of thing. I think a lot of these movies focus on that because it's like one of the easier topics to get. If you get some, body paint, and some screaming and dark rooms, you can pretty much emulate a lot of the movies I see now. And finally, it's going to be Fury of the Demon. This one is from Let me pull it up right quick. It is Croatia. And basically, the premise this one is pretty interesting, is that there was like a lost film, a horror film from like the turn of the century, silent film, right? That this filmmaker got everyone together. He's like, hey, I have this lost film. You're all invited to come watch it. So it's a mockumentary about a bunch of French and filmmakers talking about the screening of this movie, which turned everyone in the theater kind of insane and started fighting and biting and, banging and things like that. So it was very interesting. However, what I liked about it was the actual like history of the silent era French films that they were doing with it. Like, they were talking about like all these different filmmakers and stuff like that. So I got really into the real aspect of it. And then when it got to the fake stuff of like watching this fake movie and, talking to some French filmmakers, that's when it kind of lost me. So I actually liked it more of his documentary than the fake stuff. So Fear of the Demon, all 3 of those are on Tubi, and that's 3 more countries off the list. So I'm pumped for that.
Very nice. My first watch tonight is a remake from 2022, and this one is called Goodnight Mummy. Now, I loved the original Goodnight Mummy, so I was pretty intrigued, I guess, to check this one out, especially because they had a good cast. They got Naomi Watts in this one to play the mom, and this one is on Amazon Prime if you want to check it out. And this one follows a similar theme to the first movie. It's about brothers who go to stay with their mother. And when they arrive, they see that she has had some sort of facial surgery where she has bandages covering her entire face. But they notice that the mom is kind of acting a little different. And essentially the rest of the movie is them trying to decide whether this is actually their mother or someone possibly in disguise, or we don't really know. And I'll leave it at that, because obviously this movie has, if you've seen the original, you know this movie definitely has some twists and turns. And if you haven't, this movie has some twists and turns. I think it was an okay enough effort. It was a decent one-time watch, not something I would care to watch again. My big issue is that they changed things up, which isn't a bad thing, obviously, with a remake, because you don't want it to be the exact same thing as the original. But the things they changed up is what made that first movie so fantastic and great. So that was the biggest disappointment here. Also, I think they made it too obvious of what the twist was in this one. They kind of kept it a little more secretive in the first one, where it wasn't just, and maybe because I've seen the first one, I knew where it was going and it seemed more obvious, but even Sam called it out, and she's never seen the original. So maybe like a laundry movie watch at best, but not something, if you don't see it, you're not missing much. Watch the original instead if you want to watch a good movie.
Nice. So my last one this week is still a 2022 film. I watched this one over on Amazon Prime, and that's My Best Friend's Exorcism. So this is a story of two girls who are best friends, and they're just hanging out, they're having a lot of fun, and they go to this like creepy house, and all of a sudden in the creepy house they see this really creepy looking thing. I don't really know how to describe it. It kind of looked like an eye to me, but anyway, they see this creepy thing in the house, and all of a sudden it starts doing shit. And one of the two girls gets left behind while the other one runs away. And then she goes to find her, and they think, everything's cool. But then that girl starts, exhibiting different behavior. She starts being mean to people. She starts doing really mean shit to her friends and her best friend, and saying weird stuff. And her whole demeanor is changing. So that's when she figures out that there's something really wrong with her. And they had seen this. So this takes place in the 80s, by the way. They had seen this thing at school from this group called Bros for Jesus or something like that, which are like these three dude bros that get on stage and just like sing, dance, and show their muscles and, preach, I guess, the word of God or whatever. And one of the three dude bros, or Bros for Jesus, like he stopped mid-performance and looked directly at that girl as if there's something wrong there. So the other best friend caught that. So she went to find those guys, and especially that guy who had stopped, and decided to enlist him to do an exorcism, essentially, or at least to figure out what to do with her friend. And then they go through this fucking crazy exorcism, and a bunch of other stuff happens. This movie was like a decent watch. It's not something that I would rewatch necessarily. I think the comedy is okay, but don't think I'm the target audience for this movie either. So that's probably why. The horror is also okay, but not like super far enough that I'm like, okay, this is really cool. There are some scenes that are decently horror. So it's really like a kind of thing where the comedy is good enough, the horror is good enough. So the movie is like, okay, but it's not like one of my favorites or anything. But I was entertained throughout. I love the 80s vibe. I love the music that they used to portray the 80s and stuff like that. It was well acted, and I did get a few laughs out of me. So I think it's worth watching one time, and that's My Best Friend's Exorcism over on Amazon Prime.
Very cool. Without spoiling too much, did they leave the tapeworm scene in from the book?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the highlights of the movie.
Yeah, that's a cool book by Grady Hendrix, and I'm glad they left in the Bros for Jesus thing, because that thing was like in your mind, like what the fuck. So that's cool. And then Goodnight Mommy, the original, is really cool. So that's a bummer to see the second one, or or remake, actually. Kind of sounds like, what's the one with the German boys that go and home invade, and then they made a sequel with Naomi Watts. I think it was Naomi Watts.
Oh yeah,
Funny Games.
Funny Games, yes.
Yeah.
That was not a good remake either.
All right, let's see. I've been watching more than usual as well. Let's go with Jeepers Creepers Part 4, Jeepers Creepers Reborn. Boy. Man, I don't know what they were thinking with this one. I remember the trailer was pretty decent. I think we all thought it had potential. And then the movie comes out, and holy shit, this movie was terrible. I'll start off by saying at least it's slightly better than Part 3, just because remember Part 3 had like Walmart brand effects and things like that. At least this one tried, even though they're pretty cheap too. The plot is stupid. Like the creeper looks really off and not physically imposing. Like the first two, you're like, damn, this motherfucker will eat you, you know? And this guy is just like kind of skinny and like, I don't know. The characters, the plot, they're going to like a horror con that's not really a traditional horror con. It's more like a, I don't know, kind of weird shit going on outside con. The green screen reminds me of like when we were in high school and had a green screen and we're fucking around with it. Like it was terrible. Like you can tell every single green screen shot they had, it was just awful. Dee Wallace is in the beginning. She's okay, but like the whole time you can tell she's phoning it in with this really bad script. So anyway, Jeeper, the Creeper, he wakes up after, 23 years, and this time he has a cult following, and these town folk, led by like kind of like a voodoo kind of lady, they're going to sacrifice people to her. And our main girl is pregnant, and they want to have the Creeper eat the baby or something. I didn't really follow that, but it's just dumb. Everything about this is terrible, and I would not recommend it. This series needs to just stop. 1 and 2 were good, regardless of that piece of shit director, but this just, they're done. There's no way they can go with this anymore, in my opinion. So terrible, half star.
That's a shame because, we'll get into it later with Art the Clown and Terrifier, but like, the Creeper is definitely like a horror icon, and it's a shame that like he's kind of been not given the right treatment. And the fact that they recast Jonathan Breck after 3 movies too, like doesn't make any sense to me. Like it's not like he's commanding a ton of money to come back and do the 4th movie, and they didn't even ask him. So I don't know why he wasn't asked or anything. Was disappointed, but
that's a fucking blessing for him. This movie is
probably maybe right. Yeah,
I watched it too. It is bad. Like everything that Todd said is very accurate. It was just not good on almost any level. They need to bury this fucking franchise. I think it's just the way it is.
It's inconceivable how much they missed the mark on
Absolutely
the entire thing. It's too bad because I think the main girl with better material would probably be pretty good, but like this script is just fucking awful. At one point, she's talking with her friend who's like pulled over to take a pee, and and then she's like, "Don't get those Air Force Ones dirty." You know it. And I'm like, what? Like, what? Why are we talking? I don't know. The whole thing, man.
Is it like worst of the year candidate?
Yeah, top 5 worst of the year for sure. I think
Top
my
5
worst
worst of
is
the year.
like The Shark with Alicia Silverstone.
Oh, I watched that too.
Oh, you did? It's bad, man.
I didn't hate it as much as you did.
Oh my god, the green screen's the same as fucking Jeepers Creepers 4.
Yeah, and her acting is just awful.
Oof.
But I thought it was entertaining enough. Like I watch a lot of really bad shark movies, right? And so this one, by comparison, was decent. I thought, like, I wouldn't watch it again. That's for fucking sure. But I was entertained enough.
Yeah, this one's a contender.
All right, my last one tonight, and I'm sure Steve and Todd can talk about it too, because I know they both watched it this week as well, and that is Mr. Harrigan's Phone, the new Stephen King adaptation that just dropped over on Netflix. This one stars Donald Sutherland and also Jaden Martell, who you guys would know best for playing Bill in the It remake. And this one is about Jaden Martell's character. I think Craig is his name. He basically befriends this old man who is a billionaire, and he starts going to his house, reading him books, and just kind of spending time with him. And they form quite a special bond and friendship over the years. And then, and then Craig decides he wants to buy Mr. Harrigan an iPhone. And Mr. Harrigan obviously is an old curmudgeon, and, he could give 2 shits about this iPhone. But they end up bonding over the iPhone, when Mr. Harrigan realizes, hey, this is pretty cool. I could check out stocks. I can read the Wall Street Journal and, do all of my rich old man things on it. And yeah, so their bond grows stronger. And then, unfortunately, Mr. Harrigan ends up passing away. I wouldn't really call these spoilers, and I'm sorry if they are, but because it kind of happens like really early on in the movie. And that sets up the rest of the story where Jaden Martell's character starts receiving messages from beyond the grave from Mr. Harrigan. Or does he? Was Mr. Harrigan's phone hacked? We don't really know. And the mystery ensues from there, and I'll leave it at that. Overall, I really enjoyed this one. I thought it was a really solid thriller. Now, I say thriller because this definitely isn't going to make like my horror list or anything like that, because I feel like there wasn't a ton of horror in this one. It's more of just kind of a tense drama, I guess, at best. You know, there are some like thriller moments, but you know, definitely not much for the horror fans out there, but still a great movie nonetheless. Great acting by Donald Sutherland and Jada Martell here. Their relationship was super believable, and just felt really genuine, and I loved the both of them in this movie. Where the movie, I guess, loses me a little bit was I feel like they could have went darker for sure, because, you know, bodies start turning up, and that's all I'll say about that. And I feel like they could have kind of shown, you know, how these bodies got there. You know, all the kills are pretty much off screen. And then I feel like the ending left a little to be desired. But other than that, really solid flick, and I liked it.
I'm right there with you. It's a good one, man. This is a really, really good short story by King. And they pretty much copied it almost word for word for the most part, leaving a couple things here and there. I mean, I know his dad asked him at one point, hey, is he fucking touching you? Because they spend up like a lot of time together. And that's the natural question to ask, you know, younger boy with an older man. But it wasn't ever like a plot point. But other than that, it's pretty much the same throughout. So it was a really good adaptation. I'm there with you though. Like, I wish they would have gone a little bit more horror with it, because I'm struggling too. Like, one of my higher ranked films of the year, but is it horror enough to make the 10? I have to go back to the Ghostbusters argument, Afterlife, you know, like that's a ghost murdering people or one person. And then here's a ghost, quote, doing something maybe, or maybe not. Who knows? So I don't know. We'll see at the end of the year, but where do you sit on that, Steve? With horror?
Well, Ghostbusters, you see the ghosts. So that was an easier argument. This one, I mean, it doesn't matter to me because it wouldn't be. It's not on my top 10 anyway. But I really liked it. Like, the relationship between the two is fantastic. It's funny that you say that it's really like the short story, because it was so Stephen King. Like, the first scene when he's narrating what his hometown is like, I could feel that Stephen King, the way he describes the way his town is, like describes specific things in his town and stuff. So I thought that was hilarious. My issue with the film is that a lot of unanswered questions in there, and I thought it ended too abruptly. Like, when it ended, I was like, wait, is that it? There's not more to this? Like, I didn't understand. There was no real conclusion. It just ends. Like, I guess it could be, I guess I could see how it ended, but I don't know. I guess I wanted more explanations. Like, there's a scene where he says, and this is not really a spoiler because it doesn't really go anywhere. He says, what's behind the closet? Like, some mysterious looking door. He's like, oh, there's skeletons in that closet. But they never address it again. Like, I guess it was just a metaphor, but now I want to know what's behind that closet. It's just little things like that I wish.
There's nothing behind the closet.
Yeah, no, it's
in the book. There's nothing. So
do they open it?
I don't remember.
Yeah, it's just like little things like that. Like, these lines, like, we had the same argument with Barbarian. If you're gonna have a line like that in the movie, you gotta follow through in it. You can't just put that out there and then make me wonder the whole film, is there something behind that closet that's like sinister, the source of power or whatever? I don't know, but it is what it is. I still really enjoyed the like performance aspect of all this, and yeah, it was a good film.
Yeah. One more note is on that one is I really like the early 2000s stuff. It brought me back to, you know, getting your first phone. For at least Joe and I were around the same age as him, getting our first phone. So it was like, this is cool. I don't know, I just like that part.
Definitely. I got one more really quick one tonight, because for spooky season, Sam and I went over our friend's house and was just hanging out, and my friend mentioned he'd never watched Poltergeist before. So we threw it on, gave it a rewatch, and man, I'm so glad I put that movie on my top of the 80s list, because after rewatching it, like, that's a 5 out of 5 movie for me. Like, I think I gave it 4.5 like on Letterboxd, but I'm upping it to 5. Like, I think that movie is damn perfect horror movie. A movie that didn't need to do or show a lot. And then my friend also, he's like, wow, he's like, for a horror movie, there wasn't like one kill in that entire movie. Like, and I'm like, yeah, you're right. There's no body count, nothing. Like, but it's just so fucking effective, and the scares are fantastic, and like it just builds perfectly. I mean, holy shit, one or two Tobe Hooper's best, no doubt about it. So yeah, amazing.
You would have creamed your pants at the Howling Horror Nights house.
I'm sure.
top 3 of all time for me. So yeah, that was great.
Yep. And then right after that, we shut all the lights off and we watched Blair Witch Project. And
nice.
I mean, it's perfect.
He loves it. Look at him glowing. He's literally blushing about it.
It was like, I hadn't watched it in maybe a couple years, year and a half or something. And this is just as amazing as I remembered, essentially. Yeah. He's a
Have
great
any
flick.
of you seen Smile yet? Because I thought Steve
I
was gonna
haven't.
see it.
I was going to, but no, I didn't end up going. So
Yeah, me either. And
I'm
It's-
hearing extremely positive things about it, though.
Yeah. Cool.
We'll have to check it out.
Mhm.
Maybe a November or December watch once it hits. I'm sure it'll probably hit VOD by then. So maybe
Maybe-
something we
maybe-
can cover during the slow time.
Salem Saturday night after our 19-hour day. Just cover a movie, take a nap.
Yeah, right.
All right, trivia?
Yeah.
All right, so that was beginning of quarter 4. So we're at zeros for the quarter. However, overall, it's 53 for myself, 48 for Joe, 42 for Steve. And these guys have to watch Pappy's Graveyard as voted by you guys on the Discord between Pappy's Graveyard and another shitty movie. I forget the
Breaking
title.
Wind.
Twilight spoof, Breaking Wind. So
Yeah.
Pappy's Graveyard will be on the What Watch next week for both of these turds.
Just for the record, I did watch it, and
God.
I can't wait to discuss it. Let's just put it at that. It's a movie, all right.
It's a movie.
It's something. Yep.
All right. I'll go first. Get us started here.
All right.
This is a 4-clue type of question. So my first clue is road trip. Next up is cattle. So road trip and cattle. All right, here comes the easy ones. Head cheese. Oh boy,
I mean, Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
you got it.
Oh,
All right.
I thought it was too simple in my head.
Yeah, I was like, this is too easy. I was waiting for you to
Trick
say. I was waiting for you to say which one. I was like,
Right.
Nope.
All right, beautiful. All right. First question. And no one sent trivia this week, so I'm pulling these ones out of my ass pretty much right now. All right. What horror film depicts a character smashing their dirt bike into an artificial wall?
Cabin in the Woods.
That is correct.
Yeah,
Nice.
good movie.
All right. So my first one is from Kayla. She sent this a long time ago. I just didn't have a time to ask him. In Creepshow 2, what does this hitchhiker keep saying to Annie?
Want to see something really scary?
No, that's a Twilight Zone.
Oh,
What
okay.
movie is this? Hitcher 2?
Creepshow 2.
Oh, Creepshow 2? Oh,
Yeah.
thanks for the ride, lady.
Oh, damn.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, good job. My mind was completely wrong on that.
Yeah.
Thanks for the ride, lady.
Actually, when me and Steve were up in Bangor, we saw like part of like where that movie was filmed,
That's cool.
Yeah.
or that segment. Yeah.
All right, 4 clues. Clue number 1. Clue number 1 is the Dawn of the Dead remake. That's clue number 1.
Oh.
Clue number 2 is road trip. So we have Dawn of the Dead remake and road trip. Clue
Another
number
road
3,
trip.
yeah. Clue number 3 is mountains. Clue number 4 is inbred mutants.
Hills Have Eyes.
Yeah.
Incorrect,
No.
both of you.
Hmm.
Inbred mutants. Was it Wrong Turn?
It is wrong turn. Correct.
Nice.
Box-
Where's
Well,
the
what-
Dawn of
what's
the Dead
Dawn of- yeah,
remake?
did you
Yeah.
like
Dawn-
that?
I will tell you. Dawn of the Dead remake has the guy that played Terry in it,
Oh,
and the
that's
guy
right.
the girl that liked the dog in it. So that's the Dawn of the Dead reference.
Right.
And then road trip, obviously they're all driving somewhere, and then mountains and inbred mutants.
All right. Is it back to me?
Yep.
Mhm.
All righty. 3 letterboxed reviews.
Hmm.
Name the movie. Alrighty. Number 1. A grimy, cheapo shockfest whose cover would have hooked your eye at the video store.
Okay.
Number 2. Hey, it's every 2 a.m. screening you ever sat through at a horror con, but somehow not shitty. And number 3. I can see why audiences were split down the middle on this one, with split in all capitals letters.
I'll do the obvious guess of split.
Incorrect.
Okay.
No, a video store would be at least in the 80s or 90s at the most.
Split down the middle.
trying to think of, I don't know.
Forego your first guess.
Would you like me to reread any
No,
of them
ye-
or all of them?
You
No.
guess again, Todd.
Is it Malignant?
It is not Malignant.
Dang.
I have no idea.
Go ahead.
Okay. The correct answer is tonight's first movie, Terrifier Part 1.
Really?
Yes.
Why split?
Oh, split because she split.
'Cause
the
he-
girl.
Split. Okay,
He
right. Yeah.
split the girl in half.
Dang
Yeah.
it.
But see, the video store fucked me up. There's no way he saw that at a video store.
No, so it said he said cover a cover that would have shocked your eye at a video store.
Okay, see that. Yeah,
So, yeah.
that's what messed me up. I was thinking
Mhm.
too, like way before that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So my next one is also Letterboxd reviews. The most fucked up wholesome movie. This is probably going to give it away.
The Greasy Strangler.
No.
Damn it. Okay. Well, Joe gets his first free guess.
France never fails to make movies I would never watch with my parents.
What, I don't know actually now. I mean, it's not a Serbian film, right?
No. Is that a wholesome movie?
Wholesome French horror film.
Wholesome in French, huh?
Yeah.
All right.
Most fucked up wholesome. All right, so this one's really going to give it away, so you guys got to be quick on this one. A family can be a fireman on steroids. The murderer pretending. That's right.
Yeah, that's right.
I love that movie, man.
I
That's a good one.
have to redo this one. This one wasn't like good enough to put on because it's too like it doesn't say anything, but it made me laugh. My son just looked at the television and said, "Do you think Titan is too ambitious and confrontational to be nominated for mainstream American awards?" He's a 46-year-old Letterboxd reviewer, and I hate him so fucking much. I love it.
Ugh. All right, last one. In House of a Thousand Corpses, what show are Otis and Grandpa watching before the two cops show up?
Is it The Monsters?
Oh,
Correct.
Yes.
yeah, good one.
Oh boy, that movie.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah,
Final
that's a
one?
fresh scab right there.
All right. What film showcases death by strangulation with a clothesline in the shower?
Final Destination.
That is correct.
Yeah.
The first one?
Todd
first
is the
one, yeah.
character's name too. I think that dies in that.
That is, yeah, it is.
All
It's been a
right.
while, man.
So this is a French translation. So I took
wow.
the French title of a movie, translated it back to English, and this is what it popped out.
We didn't do great with these last time.
We played a bunch on the on our hangout with the Discord,
Mhm.
and yeah, got a lot of practice. So this one, Lost Generation.
Hmm.
The Lost Boys.
That's right.
Oh, sweet.
Wow, nice. Good work.
Thank you. What's that in French? Lost Generation.
Oh, I don't remember.
Like,
I
what's-
think it's La Génération Perdue.
cool.
Yep,
That it?
that's it.
All right. Solid performance for everyone tonight. I'm gonna leave with 4, 2 apiece for you guys tied. So I think it's gonna be a good quarter, which brings the scores up to myself 57, Joe 50, and Steve at 44.
Lovely.
Lovely indeed. All right, Terrifier 2.
Let's do it.
Yes.
All right, Terrifier 2. Who's laughing now? After being resurrected by a sinister entity, Art the Clown returns to Miles County where he must hunt down and destroy a teenage girl and her younger brother on Halloween night. As the body count rises, the siblings fight to stay alive while uncovering the true nature of Art's evil intent. All right, so we have a new cast of characters, but we have Art the Clown, obviously he's walking around. This takes place right after the first Terrifier movie, so it'd be worth the rewatch to watch that to see where that ended up. We have Sienna, who plays a high school girl. She has her brother and her mother. They live at home. Their father had passed away, and that's a plot point later in the film. And it's like, it's obviously a soft spot in the family dynamic. She is making an epic costume for a Halloween party that she's going to go to. Meanwhile, her little brother is kind of exhibiting maybe a little bit murderous tendencies. He's worshiping Art the Clown. He's going to dress as him for Halloween, and it sets off a warning lights for the sister because like, hey, this guy is like a real killer. He just killed people like a year ago in our town. Why are you going to worship him, wear a costume, walk around town? Turns out that Art the Clown's body was never recovered from the scene, but there was a weird art drawn in blood at the morgue, and the mortician was killed. So what happened with that? So we follow Art the Clown as he eventually makes his way back to the town, meets up, has a run-in with our lead girl, and we just watch as they ultimately battle it out, right? So I'll leave it at that. There's a lot in this movie, man. It's a long one for sure. There's a ton of fucking blood and gore and guts and all that stuff. Art is fucking insane. He's creepy. He's excellent. I love it. So overall, this was a really good movie. I do have some issues with it. We'll talk about it later. But overall, Terrifier 2, if you are a gore hound, you're going to fucking love this movie. Like, it is the non-stop gore. Every kill is just over the top. And he doesn't often stop there either. You think he cuts off someone's fucking face or something and it's done? Nope. He's going to torture him for a while. You think the person is dead? Nope. They're still alive somehow, even though they have 90% of their body fucking carved out of them. So if you're a gore hound, come watch this movie. If you like creepy little fucking dudes staring at you creepily and smiling, it's in it for you. So yeah, leave it at that. Terrifier 2, overall, positive.
Yeah. Well, first of all, congratulations to Terrifier 2, because it made history. Well, made trivia history, as it is the movie that finally took Top Gun Maverick out of the top 10 of the box office this week. So, I mean, yeah, they've made, I think 1.2 million in limited theater release, which is great. Great for a little indie horror movie that honestly didn't have a big budget. So, big props to Terrifier 2. So yeah, Terrifier 2. First, I want to go back to Terrifier because, I thought Terrifier was decent. Like, if you're a gorehound, it was great. My biggest problem with the first Terrifier was there was no story, like, whatsoever. And I think they corrected that with Terrifier 2. We actually get a story with this one. I think, honestly, everything is better in this movie than was in the first one. Like, they, most sequels are tough. Usually you can't say that a sequel is better than the first movie. I can 100% say that with Terrifier 2. This is 100% a better movie in just about every single way. Better acting, better gore, better kills, better everything. So I left this movie really enjoying the hell out of it. I had so much fun watching this. I was really concerned about the runtime. A slasher movie that is almost 2.5 hours long seems ridiculous, seems overindulgent, seems way too much. But honestly, the runtime never bothered me all that much. Like, I always found like there was something interesting going on screen. Now, could some stuff have been cut? Absolutely. But, the runtime never bogged this movie down for me, which, I mean, that's saying a lot for a movie about a clown that's just killing people for 2.5 hours. Yeah, I mean, I thought Lauren LaVera was a complete badass as the final girl, and I hope we see more of her. I know she was an excellent interview, and I can't wait for you guys to hear our interview with her at the end of the show. But I hope she comes back. I hope we see more of her. I hope we see her in Terrifier 3. Obviously, they left it open-ended for a Terrifier 3, and I think we will see a Terrifier 3 with all the success this movie is having. So yeah, overall, really enjoyed the hell out of this. Definitely had some issues, but as of right now, I still don't know what I'm going to rate this movie. And, I'm teetering between one score or another, and it's really going to come down to how this conversation goes.
Nice. I agree with both of you in a lot of the points that you said. I like Terrifier. I thought it was a good movie, but not like great. But this one was just like, it was awesome. I really enjoyed watching this movie. I thought, like you guys said, it just improved on almost everything that the first one did. It had the same, like, creepy art, but it also had a goofier art, which worked for this. Like, it sounds bad that you have a goofy killer, but his goofiness actually like adds to his creepiness, and that was really awesome. This movie introduced one of my new favorite characters in horror, and that's Lil Art, or I don't know what they call her, Demon Girl or whatever it is, his imaginary little girl self. I fucking adore that character. Super creepy, and I hope we see more of that character going forward, because it also gives Art a little bit more depth. Like, you see Art in a way that we hadn't seen before, and that was really interesting. The gore is fucking amazing in this, just top notch, really entertaining. The way that the stuff that they came up with to up the first one was just really, really cool. Like you said, Joe, having was Lauren LaVera just fantastic in this role. Just really cool, and one of my favorite, if not my favorite, interview of the year, honestly. And we only talked for 15 minutes, but just a really big horror fan, and you could tell that this is someone who will continue with the genre. And yeah, I just really, really love this movie. My issue with it is, like you guys said, I think it's too long. And the last 20 to 25 minutes, brought down the score a little bit for me because I did not like it. I did not like the direction that it went into, and that includes the after credit scene, which I thought was just so stupid, if I'm being honest. So yeah, still really great movie, and I'm happy that this turned out to be so good because I was a little worried. You know, it's 6 years since the last one. That's a long time. I know it's not really their fault because COVID kind of shut things down and all that stuff, but I thought maybe in that time the expectations would go too high, but they matched him, and I love this movie. So awesome.
6 years, man. Dang, I didn't think it's been that long. It feels like 2. Yeah, you know, my biggest gripe is going to be the runtime. I think, you know, I know, Joe, it didn't affect you, but it affected me. I was like, there's points where it's like, all right, we need to get to the story with it. So I just didn't like the family drama aspect. I thought that could have been cut 100% completely, and it wouldn't have suffered either. And then there's a scene too, the dream sequence on like the kids show. Like, it was cool, but like it didn't play into anything unless I missed the point of it. But it was like, this is cool 10 or so minutes, but it didn't add anything to the plot, you know? So like, cut that out. I think he just wanted to have that scene in there, so he made it like a dream sequence, but all actuality, I think he could have left that alone. I mean, with low budget stuff, you're gonna have uneven acting, which I put in my review, but that's kind of unfair because, you know, you got lower budget, you know. But the main girl, yeah, I agree everything you guys said. She's fucking great. I want to see more of her for sure. And then Art the Clown, man, like, he's like he's so good in this role, man. Like, you see him in person, and like he's like, I don't know. He just plays the role perfectly. Like, his mannerisms, the way he looks, the way he talks and walks, and his just fucking the movement of his eyes and his mouth when he kills that guy in the Halloween store. Like, he goes and flips the sign to close, and I'm like, oh man, it's gonna go down. And then that scene too, where the mom and the kid go up to the door and they see Art, like they caught him, and he's holding the guy's head like he's animatronic, and like, oh look, cool. And then he walks away and he tosses it. So that goofy stuff, like Steve was mentioning, is really good. But still, like, man, this one was way too long, and that ending too, I didn't get it. Were we supposed to get it? Or is it just supposed to be weird?
It was so weird, and that is my biggest negative of this movie, and it's still why I'm teetering, because I loved everything about this movie so much until the ending. Like, it became like fucking Masters of the Universe, like with that fucking dagger sword or whatever the hell that thing was, and I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Now the movie is so like not based in reality anyway, though, that like I'm just like, okay, like it's just fucking weird, and like you just kind of like, I just kind of went with it and like accepted it, but I still didn't like it. Like, it just got way too just like weird. Like, I like understood, like, I guess the concept, because her dad like was a comic book artist, and he like wrote out this character for her, and like it came to life, like, you know, on like on screen. But I just thought it was stupid. I really, really disliked that ending, which is disappointing because I loved everything else about this movie. But yeah, that ending just did not hit for me. Yeah,
it just, you know, yeah, I get that we know this is not based in reality, right? Because obviously Art came back basically from the dead and is fine for this movie. But that's all I wanted, supernatural anyway, was just that. Like Jason is, like Michael Myers is, you know, they keep coming back from the dead, but it doesn't mean they have glowing fucking swords that you get to kill them and shit. You just kind of accept that these killers are in a way immortal, right? It's just the way it is. It's like a horror unwritten rule, like just fucking go with it, right? They don't need to explain it, we don't need to know why or how, just go with it. But once they introduced that whole fucking glowing dagger and everything, it took me out a full point. It went from could have been my favorite horror movie of this year so far to top 10 for sure, but not, you know, not a contender for number 1 anymore. That's how much I didn't like that aspect of the film. And I didn't like that last 20 minutes, you know. So if they had ended the movie before that final scene, it would have been way higher for me. It just did not register with me at all. And I feel, and we've talked about this a few times this year, or I did at least, I feel like they put their best stuff early, so by the end they don't have a big like wow moment to kind of finish it off, right? The biggest kill in the film, which is that room kill with the girl, is like what, like midway to 3/4 of the film. So after that, you're just kind of expecting more, and there isn't that, and that was kind of a shame.
Yeah, that kill legit made me feel uncomfortable. Like I was like, oh man, they're like going after it. And how on earth is that girl still alive, man? Like mom walks in. I know it's just a movie, but mom walks in and she's like, "Mom," I'm like, what? How much blood do you have in your body? But
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, I just had a question. Did I miss how Art was resurrected, or did he just appear? Because in the description here it says after being resurrected by a sinister entity. Did I miss the sinister entity, or is it supposed to be his girl sidekick that I love too, Steve? By the way, she's really cool.
I think it's just her. Like I think it's nothing. Yeah, it's nothing explained. It's just kind of
okay.
Something resurrected him. Yeah, I don't get that description either. I don't remember something like completely just resurrecting him. Right? It's just
he was just in the morgue and
woke up essentially. Yeah. Right? That's I can't say how much I love that. Like her glowing eyes were creepy. She was so creepy. Like I just loved how creepy she was. And the only thing I didn't like about her is when she starts like imitating people's voices at one point. Like she imitates one of the boys' voices and stuff, and that kind of took me
Terminator
out of it.
2, man.
Yeah, it's just I didn't like that part. But outside of that, her just being being there. She doesn't need to do anything. She's just fucking there, and that was creepy enough. And I really enjoyed that aspect. And the weird relationship that Art has with her was also both like endearing, but also really gross and fucked up. Like the scene in really early on in the laundromat, because he needs to wash his Art the Clown suit apparently, which is very important. He gets nude and then sees her, and it's just like, ugh. I don't know, but she's imaginary. Thank God.
Shit too.
Yeah. Takes a bloody shit. Like, yeah. It's
you see Art's butt for all the butt fans out there.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, totally agree. She was amazing, and we actually in the interview we talked about how she should do cons like in the makeup with Art and like a photo op, and how awesome that would be. So hopefully they'll do that, because I think that would be so cool.
So something interesting that came out. So we're reviewing kind of a week late because we had a bunch of stuff with the Omri interview and stuff, but we got to see the reaction in theaters, and people were like passing out and vomiting at the theater, and people apparently were leaving like midway through. You always get that as like some kind of stupid marketing ploy that they do, but this one felt like genuine, right? This isn't like a marketing ploy that they came out with. This was real people just so disgusted by it that they're walking out. And I'm like, kudos to the movie. Good job. That's what you want,
Yeah, I'm actually really shocked this got a theater release. Like, it is so fucking like just not the type of movie you would ever expect to see in theaters. And I just like wish I could have been in the theater with a person who like never saw the first movie and had like they just went with a friend or something, not knowing what they were getting into. You know what I mean? And I agree with you, Steve. I totally believe like people fucking passed out or puked in the theater, because there's some really and I mean some people have really weak stomachs, but there is some highly disturbing stuff in here, especially that one bedroom kill, which obviously we keep going back to because it was shocking.
I do,
because it kept going on and on and on. And
it did, yeah, right up to the point where he's eating like something out of her fucking skull. Like it's just creepy. I do agree with you, Todd, too, about that whole like clown cafe dream sequence. It was like cool in concept, but it dragged on a little too long and really did zero for the movie, in my opinion. So that was kind of a weird thing. But the whole time I was watching that scene in particular, but just the whole movie, I was thinking, fuck, this would be the best Halloween Horror Nights house, because the movie is set up like scenes. It's almost like a stage play in that sense, where things would happen in one room and then move on to a next scene where it's another room, and then it was almost like built in a way that was like different stages. And I really liked that concept, and I thought it'd be great to see. They'll never do it because it's too much, but I think it would be fucking awesome.
Yeah. And a lot of this, I mean, very big kudos, obviously, to practical effects for this movie. Because there was, I think in the interview, I think they said this movie's like 9% practical effects with just like very, very minimal CGI. And I mean, this is great. It looked fucking fantastic. The gore just looked so great, so real. You don't need fake blood. You don't need CGI blood. And I mean, this movie proves that practical effects is definitely king, because that fucking gore looked amazing.
Yeah, and Damien does it himself, right?
He does, yeah.
Yeah, that's fucking legit, man. Yeah, super good. Like, yeah, I'm back to you guys too. Like, if you did not know what you're getting into and you watch this movie, like, you're gonna be shocked. Especially if you're not like a big giant horror fan, you're just going with a buddy or something. Like, man, you're in for it.
Yeah, you're expecting like it.
Yeah.
You get this, like, fuck. Yeah.
Dude, Art would kick Pennywise's ass, yes or no?
Well, Pennywise is really supernatural, right?
Well, so is Art. He sees
but
diarrhea girls.
I think Pennywise he can turn into a fucking spider.
That's
like,
true.
You know?
You got that, yeah.
Yeah.
We'll see with part 3, and then we'll ask that again.
Right.
Yeah. Actually, we asked him the question, which clown he'd like to collaborate with. So stay tuned for the interview for that. It was a good answer, I thought.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and we also had a very interesting. He also had a very Damien Leone, the director, had a very interesting interview when I asked him if he saw an end game for Art the Clown, or if he thinks Art the Clown will be like the new Freddy or Jason with 13 to 20 movies. And honestly, his answer kind of surprised me. So yeah, stay tuned for that for sure. But here's my question I want to know from you guys, because I know we've been pretty tough on Art when horror fans have been calling him an icon after one movie, and we're like, come on, it was fucking one movie, no big deal. Do you think after this second movie, do you think it's fair to call Art now a horror icon, or do you think it's still too early?
I would say no, only because the audience isn't as big as like a Mike or a Freddy. And I think, and I would love for them to tone it down and get a theater, like a wide scale release of this. Cause this is, if you tone down the violence, okay, leave the violence in for like the unrated disc for us, but like release this in theaters and fucking, cause it's scary without the violence. You know what I mean? I can imagine fucking kids going ape shit over Art the Clown and saying, fuck Pennywise. You know what I mean? So I think that holds it back in a way, because you can't reach the wide audience. Yeah, you're getting the horror fans, but you're not getting like the maybe on the fence, I like being scared horror fans, you know what I mean? So no, for that reason only. And yeah, it'd be really dope if you got this in the theater, like a wide scale, rated R, you know what I mean? That'd be really cool.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Like, I think the horror fans, he's definitely up there, not quite at the main stage, but he's an opening act to the main stage at this point. Like, he's made this at least a show, right? And the problem is there's no mainstream recognition yet, right? It only came out in like 800 theaters, and that was a lot of horror fans. It made like 1.9 million or something over the weekend, which is great for a movie like this. But until you get all those eyes on it, he's never going to become kind of that icon. And you know what? That's okay too, because not everything needs to go mainstream, right? We can have our own, as horror fans, our own little kind of icons that we really enjoy that a lot of people, don't. So we can have our leprechauns and other characters that don't get the mainstream recognition, but we really like those characters because they mean something to horror fans, So I think it's fine that it doesn't get its mainstream audiences, to be honest.
Yeah, I could see this too being a next step horror movie, and what I mean by that is, you got like a younger guy or girl starting out, and they watch, the typicals, Jason, Michael, and all that stuff, and then you're like, hey, you want to try something a little bit more hardcore, and not to like the fucking Serbian film bullshit, but like something legit, and you hand them this Blu-ray, and you're like, yeah, try this out. Let me see what you think, and then this either makes or breaks him as a gorehound or not. So I could see this being like a almost like a final level kind of gore level kind of thing. What do you think though, Joe, about it?
Yeah, I mean, I'm right there with you guys. I think he is a horror icon for horror fans, but he is not a horror icon amongst Freddy. You show a non-horror fan a picture of Michael Myers, Freddy Krueger, Jason Voorhees, Leatherface, they're going to know who they are. They'll say, oh, that's you show a normal person a picture of Art the Clown, they're going to have no idea, most likely, who that character is. So yeah, he definitely has some time and a few more movies to go. And like you said, Todd, he's going to need some mainstream release or something like that to reach an icon status. But he's definitely on tier B, I guess you would say. Yeah, for sure.
One thing I want to know with you guys, what do you guys think of the cameos in this? So we got Felissa Rose as a teacher, and we got Chris Jericho as like a I don't know, nurse or something at the end.
He's a security guard.
Oh,
orderly.
security. That's right. Yeah, orderly.
That one was so out of place. I'm like, what the fuck is Chris Jericho? Because I saw his name in the credits in the beginning, and I'm like, I completely forgot. And then the end credits scene comes, and he's fucking eating like chips or something. Buff ass security dude. I mean, it didn't bother me, but it was just like, oh, hey, that's Chris Jericho.
Well, Chris Jericho is a huge horror fan.
Massive horror fan.
He's featured prominently in Search of Darkness because he has such a really cool like outlook about horror, and on his podcast he talks about horror all the time. Like he has all the horror guests because he's such I'd say outside of his like interests like music and wrestling, horror is really the thing he'd be want to get into. And I feel for him that's his next career path once he retires from wrestling, which has got to come at some point. I mean, the guy's fucking 50 something at this point, and I think he wants to make horror movies, kind of like CM Punk did, and Kane, I guess, did for a while there. And yeah, I think that's why he's starting to dip his toe. He was also in Sharknado, like 5 or 6 or whatever. So yeah, I think that's what it was. And Felicia Rose was just weird. It was, I don't know, it was just out of place.
She was fine.
Yeah.
She's right. She didn't do anything wrong. I mean,
it's the best movie she's been in 40, 30 years.
I was going to say that. I don't know if that would be mean or not. But yeah, her performance is decent. Like, I did not like Hatchet for her character in that one.
Oh my God. And Nun's Curse.
Yeah, I think she got in here because like all those people do the con circuit together. So I'm just like, hey, you want to be in Terrifier 2? And they just kind of like threw her in there. But yeah, I actually met Jericho at a horror con. So he's definitely a massive horror fan. And we had a conversation because I was wearing my Brain Dead shirt. So we had a conversation over that movie. So he's definitely legit.
And then he put you in the walls of Jericho.
I wish. That would have been sweet. But yeah, no. That end scene, like whatever, like I just chalked it up to just a really fucking bizarre end credit sequence, but I did not count that as like the end of the movie. You know what I mean? I just took it for a completely separate like thing.
What do you think of them bringing back Vicky? That's the girl with the like fucked up face from the first one into that.
Yep.
Do you think that's showing that she might come back in some role in Terrifier 3?
I mean, I wouldn't mind it because she's fucking terrifying in her own right. Like she's like really, obviously she reminds me of like the chimp lady, in reality, I guess, like the lady who had her face eaten off by the chimp there. So it's just like really fucking scary looking. And yeah, I think she would be a great character for the third movie. She seems to have completely snapped and birthed Art the Clown somehow, some way. So yeah, I mean, fucking weird, but yeah, like maybe, she could kind of like be a minion of Art or something like that. And that could make for some really cool imagery.
You could be like a fucked up family. She's like the mom.
Yeah, there we
Art,
go.
And then you have the little girl all at a table, like just being.
Love it.
Yeah, the crazy fucked up Terrifier family.
Yeah, it's like Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's like the Sawyer family, but now we're gonna have the Art family.
Yeah. That's what this whole series is leading into, is like the birthing of this family. I think that's all I had as far as my notes.
3.7 on Letterboxd average.
Really?
Yeah, very high.
That's fantastic. Yeah.
Which is right around our scores. So, what do you guys think, man? Like, did your score change up or down after talking? I'm still kind of where I was when I watched it.
Yeah, so I'll go first, I guess. I was teetering, between a 7.5 and an 8 on this one, like and that's why I still haven't rated it on Letterboxd, because I've been waiting to talk to you guys about it. If it wasn't for that ending, like this maybe would have been higher, like Steve said, but that ending just really dragged it down for me. Like, I just think of the rest of the movie and how much fun it was, like the ride, and the amazing gore, the amazing practical effects, pretty solid acting from our lead actress. And I just loved her character. It has a really great, we didn't really mention this, but it has a great Halloween vibe too, like throughout, like that scene with Art and her in the Halloween shop, like definitely one of my favorite scenes in the entire movie. I absolutely loved that scene. So you know what? Why not? Despite my faults with the ending and stuff, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I think it deserves it. It's a great triumph, honestly, for indie horror too, to get a theater release and stuff like that. So, I think it warrants an 8 out of 10.
Okay. I still think it's way too long. Like, we're talking like 30 plus minutes could have been cut and would have affected it, in my opinion. But I gotta love practical effects, man, especially at low budget like this. A lot of people, I mean, go on Tubi and people cut corners constantly and put stupid. I mean, look at Rob Zombie, Devil Rejects, the fucking end shootout where they die allegedly, and it's just a bunch of fake CGI bullets. And that was a fucking mainstream theater release, you know. And for Damien and crew to come out here and just like cut people's legs off and skin them all on screen, it's like, fuck, man, respect. It's crazy, like taking risks and stuff. Art the Clown's great, but I still cannot get over the length of this movie. A slasher cannot be this long, so I'm sticking with a 7.5 out of 10 on it.
I thoroughly enjoyed this movie. I really did. You know, more than 3/4 of it were so good and should have been my number one of the year so far. And hopefully there's more, but should have been my number one of the year. But that ending, and now we say that ending, and we talked about the sword, which is like a 2-minute thing. That ending was like fucking 30 minutes long. It's like a long sequence to get to that point. And I was kind of bored throughout that sequence. I did not like all the stuff basically at the carnival is when it started dipping the interest for me. So when I say the ending, I mean the last fucking half hour of this movie. And to end in that way just really bummed me out and lost a full point. So it was a 9 had it not been for that ending, which would have made it tied with my number one of the year. But I'm giving it an 8, which is still, top 10. But it's too bad, but still fucking loves this movie. And I'm going to watch it again. This is one that so it never released in Canada, which fucking sucks for everyone here. A lot of people actually couldn't watch it because it's only theaters right now. And it's so few theaters that if you live in like Kentucky or Tennessee, I know Chuck said he couldn't watch it. They can't watch it until probably November when it comes out to Screenbox. And even then, Screenbox is exclusive to the US. So I don't know if international are going to get to see it this year at all. Yeah, and then that sucks. So we just got lucky that we got a screener for it because of the interviews. But I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I hope you get a chance to watch it because it's really worth checking out. So 8 out of 10 for me.
Yeah, this will be a Blu-ray pickup for me too, and a rewatch in a couple months.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
We should all do the Art the Clown photo op at Texas Frightmare together. It'd be fun.
Mm-hmm. So unanimously approved.
Squad.
We'll flip Todd upside down, and me and Steve can like.
Oh, that'd be funny, man.
You guys ready for next week? It's finally here. Halloween ends.
Oh God.
What is going to happen?
This is like
Will Evil die tonight?
I hope so. I hope they resurrect Tommy just to kill him again.
What are your thoughts going into this, though? Are you excited? Are you like, after Halloween Kills, you're like, I don't know.
I am excited because, my wife's not a horror fan, and she watched the last one with me, and we had a really good time just laughing how, I didn't like it. Clearly, we had a really good time laughing about how stupid it was. I have this knife. Well, I have this knife. Shut up, fuckers. So I'm looking forward to it. We're gonna make a thing of it. Order some food. Me and her just watch it, and I have the lowest expectations of any movie this year, even lower than the Munsters. It's like, because I just think it's gonna suck. So maybe it'll be good. We'll see.
Is it just me, or for something that should be a big fucking event, the marketing just isn't there this year? Like, I don't feel I'm hearing a lot of buzz for this movie. I don't know what's going on with this movie that I don't hear. Like, I don't see commercials for it. I don't see billboards. I don't see buses fucking flying by with the logo on it, which I did see for Halloween Kills. So I'm a little concerned. If the studio is not backing this and they're releasing it to Peacock the same day, which I also think is super really fucking strange. Weird. My expectations are low, if I'm being honest. Now, am I psyched to see it? Fuck yeah, it's Halloween. Like, that's just, I don't care if it's fucking Rob Zombie's Halloween 3. It's a Halloween movie. I'm going to be psyched about it just naturally. Even just to get to see the crazy Michael Myers we saw in Halloween Kills. If we get more of that, I'm fine, But now, I don't love Halloween Kills, but so I'm going with tempered expectations. I am excited because it's a Halloween film. It's Michael Myers. It's Laurie Strode's, for sure death, because there's no fucking way she survives that movie. But I got low expectations, so who knows? Maybe it could just surprise me at this point.
What if the final scene is Laurie Strode? The credits roll. Oh wait, there's after credits. Laurie Strode's alive, everybody. She's deformed though, but she's in a little prison ward. She gives birth to Michael Myers' head. Like Art the Clown. Yay or nay?
Only if like fucking CM Punk could be the guard at the front.
Oh,
no, put just John Cena in there. Don't even mention it's John Cena.
Yeah, right. Just, don't sell it. Just don't sell it completely.
Wait, is that John Cena? And then just next scene. What the fuck?
Yeah.
Are you guys both watching at home? though,
I am.
or is anyone going to the theaters?
I don't have Peacock, so
Okay.
I'll have to see it in theaters probably.
We got tickets for IMAX, so
Nice.
I'm excited for it.
It's gonna be cool hearing that music though, especially in a movie theater. For you.
Yeah, definitely. But I agree with you guys. I like tempered expectations. Like Halloween Kills really killed the momentum that first movie created, and I don't know what to expect here. I don't know. I just hope we have like some sort of conclusion. Like I hope they don't leave it open ended. I guess like. I want Laurie to survive though. Like I would really be bummed if they kill her.
All right, prediction. So that's your prediction. She survives, kills Michael.
I think she's gonna survive whether she kills Michael or not. We'll see. There's like a lot of weird shit coming out about this movie too. Like everyone's saying it's not what you're gonna expect. I'm hearing like really fucking bizarre theories like about what's gonna happen and stuff. So I don't know.
What's the time jump on this one again?
It's like 3 or 4 years. I heard they bring COVID into it too, which I think is like is a mistake.
Oh, we're past that now. Come on.
Right.
Did they shoot this one back to back with 2 or no?
No.
Okay.
They filmed it like shockingly not that long ago.
Okay.
Like for as big a movie it was, they finished filming like this summer. Like it was.
Yeah, I think it was over the summer. Yeah.
It was like a tight fucking shoot for something like this.
Prediction, Steve. What you got?
For Laurie, one of two things: either she dies early on and everyone gets pissed off about it, or she kills Michael, but Michael also kills her. So it's like a double ending of that storyline. But I have a fucking feeling she dies early, and people are not gonna like it. Yeah,
resurrection style.
Not that early. Like I'm thinking like a quarter into the film, not fucking 5 minutes into the film.
I mean, I don't think you could be very right, Steve, because her shoot time seemed very short. Like, I feel like she was only on set for like a week, and like her filming set were done. So we'll see.
Yeah, I'm thinking more along the lines of you, Steve, where they kill each other. But I'm also thinking they're gonna go a little weird with it and make the granddaughter like the next Michael Myers, like because they hinted at it in part 1 when they're in the truck fleeing, and it zooms in on her and she's holding the knife. It's like, ooh, but they didn't explore that in part 2. So I'm thinking they might go a little wonky with that. So.
Yeah, it's not a bad theory because like she was very angry in part 2 too, like wanting the revenge and stuff like that. So maybe if she snaps if Laurie dies because now her mom's dead and her grandma's dead, and but what would be your motivation? I guess just like mental break and she just starts like killing people. I don't know. We'll see. I'm very interested to see how this is all going to play out and how it's going to end. Obviously, it's not going to be the end of the Halloween franchise, obviously, but Halloween will never end as long as the money train rolls. But it's going to be number 1 in the box office this upcoming weekend, and it's going to be massive. So you'll hear our thoughts next week.
For sure.
All right. I guess that is it then for this episode. Don't forget, stay tuned for our interviews with the cast of Terrifier 2, director Damien Leone, actress Lauren LaVera, and Art the Clown himself, David Howard Thornton. Thank you so much to all 3 of them for joining us for those interviews. Don't forget about our events tomorrow if you're listening as the day of release, October 15th with Damien Maffei, Silver Moon Comics from 1 to 5. And next Saturday, October 22nd, a day of Hocus Pocus with Omri Katz, the signing from 1 to 5 and the screening at 7 p.m. Silver Moon Comics and Cinema Salem for those 2 events. Yeah, I guess that is it. Don't forget to follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, the Horror Squad Podcast. And the absolute best way to keep up to date with us is our Discord. Just send us a message through any of our social medias or email the Horror Squad Podcast at gmail.com, and we will get you a private link to that Discord. Also, don't forget we have merch, tpublic.com/the Horror Squad Podcast. You can get some t-shirts, you can get some hoodies. We got a whole bunch of stuff on there. So if you want to support the podcast, go buy some merch. We would appreciate it. And that is it. Next week, Halloween finally ends. And we will see you next week. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Squad Podcast, where today we are joined by a very special guest. He is the man that has created a new horror icon in Art the Clown. And after 6 years, Art is back in Terrifier 2, which hits theaters October 6th, followed by hitting streaming exclusively on Screenbox. Please welcome director and writer Damien Leone.
How's it going? Thanks for having me.
Awesome. So Damien, I want to go back to the beginning, and I want to know where the idea for art came from.
Oh boy. He originated in my first short film. That was going to be my calling card. Once I got out of high school, I took one filmmaking class and sort of an aesthetics of directing introductory class, but it really wasn't for me. So I talked my mother into giving me money instead of going to film school to create sort of a professional short film. It's going to be the first time I shot on actual film, 35 millimeter. And I sort of wanted to make a calling card with just because I was also a special makeup effects artist. So I was going to just pack it out with creatures and demons. And I had this idea for a psychotic clown terrorizing a woman on a city bus. It's just one of many ideas that I had. And I thought this would be a good way to kick off this short film. And then when it came time to designing him, I just knew at the time that I wanted him to look as opposite from Pennywise as possible, because Pennywise was the king, still arguably the king. So I did not want to step on his toes. So we went in a very, black and white, very more simplistic, and he didn't have hair and he didn't speak. So all across the line, then when I was sculpting his face, I sort of wanted him to look like your classic Joker, like comic book Joker, actually, or your classic devil, a little witchy with the pointed nose and the chin and the cheekbones, the pronounced cheekbones. So that's kind of where he started, but he was only in the beginning of this short film for like 2 minutes. And he has this really kind of cool, suspenseful scene where he starts antagonizing this woman in a sort of an awkward, joking clown fashion. And it's kind of funny, but then it starts getting a little awkward and uncomfortable. And then he gets closer to her and starts getting very intense. And eventually he's sticking her with a needle and she wakes up, underground chained. And that was it. But everybody who saw that short film said, dude, that clown is crazy. You have something there. You have to keep going and we need something more.
Right. And then you ended up doing All Hallows Eve, which, was the anthology where art was, introduced. What made you, I guess, go from the anthology to doing Terrifier? Was that always kind of the plan to make like just exclusive Art the Clown movies, or?
Yeah, it was never the plan to make All Hallows Eve, actually.
Okay.
After the Ninth Circle, which is the first short film with art, then I made Terrifier, the short film. So both of those shorts wound up being in All Hallows Eve. But I always wanted to go from the Terrifier short to just Terrifier, but nobody wanted to give me money to make that. And then, so I just threw those shorts on YouTube, and the producer of All Hallows Eve stumbled across them, and he was looking for Halloween-based shorts by other filmmakers to include into this anthology. And he loved Art the Clown and just wanted to feature him on the cover of the box. And long story short, I wound up talking him into letting me direct everything. And if he gave me a little more money to include a wraparound story and a middle segment. And that was that. But, I made sure that I retained the rights to Art the Clown, because I told him I always want to make a standalone film with this character. That was always my idea. So there's really no connection between All Hallows Eve and Terrifier. They're in their own universe, but I did recycle some things from the short films that I always loved and wanted to put into the feature.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
So, and here we are now, where Art the Clown has become an icon of horror. He is being compared to the greats of Freddy and Jason and Leatherface. I mean, what do you think about that?
It's my childhood self would be just kicking and screaming, just going wild over hearing that. I let other people say that. Like, I don't know if he's up there. If other people believe he is, that's wonderful. I feel like we have a little more to go, and I think part 2 could be a make or break, or will certainly, if he continues to deliver the goods, I think that'll certainly kick him up a notch or two. But it's very surreal and very honored to hear that. It's like the greatest thing a horror fan like me could ever imagine hearing.
Yeah, definitely. Now with the success of the first Terrifier, the fan base was rabid, and we had to wait 6 years for this second one to finally see the light of the day. So can you tell us about, I guess, the challenges that came about with making Terrifier 2?
Oh my God. Just it being such a big film and still a very indie movie. It's still very low budget, but the scope is so much bigger than the first movie. I mean, as you know, it's now, people are talking about, it's become a polarizing thing that the film is so long for a slasher. It's 2 hours and 18 minutes long. And I didn't set out to make it that long. I just wrote the story I wanted to write, and this was organically the story. But just like I said, just the scope and the amount of special effects, it was probably quadruple the amount of special effects. And I do all the special effects myself as well, along with my partner, Phil Falcone, is my producer, and he assists me with all the makeup. But this is makeup that would require teams of people, honestly. And we reached out to another makeup company before we started filming, because I was hoping they could tackle maybe 40% of the effects to lighten the load. And then like a month before we started shooting, we couldn't come to terms financially, and they wound up splitting. So now we were really screwed because we were really far behind. So we had to jump into filming without having a lot of these effects prepared. So sometimes we'd have to go film right up to the moment in a scene where the effects were going to start happening, and we'd literally break for like 5 days, maybe a week, and Phil and I would actually build all of these effects and then go back and shoot them. And that repeatedly happened throughout the course of the movie. And then of course, COVID hit us. That wasn't a walk in the park. That set us back about 4 months, but also it was also sort of a blessing in terms of it gave us a lot of time to build a lot of the effects, especially for one of the main kill scenes that I never had time to build effects for. So we did wind up, I mean, it's certainly not a blessing, but you know what I mean? We used it to our benefit in terms of just giving us extra time to build effects.
All right. Steve, I know you got a couple.
Yeah. Speaking of those effects, you had some amazing kills in Terrifier, but you really raised the bar in Terrifier 2. What was the process of thinking of those kills and actually like executing some of those kills on screen?
Yeah, well, one in particular that it seems that everybody who sees the new one, they know the scene, the big kill scene in the in the yellow room. That one, I was actually flipping through a book of Jack the Ripper, his, a biography on him or whatever. And there were actual images, photographs of his victims. And there was one victim in particular this woman was mutilated on a bed, just so horribly beyond recognition. And I thought it was so disturbing. And I said, well, whenever I'm writing Art the Clown and he has to do something really sadistic or violent, I just say, I imagine if Satan and Jack the Ripper had a child, and what would he do? And now I'm looking at this Jack the Ripper book, and I said, well, we could take this photograph and sort of reverse engineer it and show how this character ended up in that final awful state. So that's the kind of things that happen, the kind of mindset that I have to put myself in order to write a scene like that.
It was amazing. Joe talked about Art being, one of the classic villains now, just absolutely making his name in horror. I think you have another one in this film. Can you tell us a little bit more about Demon Girl? I think she's fantastic, and curious how she came about.
The little pale girl. Yeah. Well, I knew that we were going to go hardcore with the supernatural elements in this one, and I was going to actually make that a character. Where a lot of other slashers sort of just gloss over the supernatural element. They don't really explain or show what kind of force is driving the character, why the boogeyman becomes the boogeyman, etc. So I knew I would have an actual apparition that would represent this evil force, almost as Art's little sidekick. But I didn't want to get too carried away with her as a sidekick, where she's with him every step of the way and she's sort of getting in the way of him being Art the Clown. So just showing up enough and just being his guide. But yeah, she is dressed as a mini demonic female Art the Clown. And originally that wasn't my vision for the character. Originally, I imagined a little girl who looked like she was born in the 60s, and she sort of had this yellow sundress with like flowers on it and maybe like a little flower in her hair, but still with that creepy look. And then a year before we started shooting, the Halloween before we started shooting, I remember seeing all these hashtags of people cosplaying Art the Clown, and so many female Art the Clowns. And I just said, oh, wow, like, it's so obvious. I have to jump on that before it's too late. So I quickly wrote this little Art the Clown character in there.
Yeah, and I think she's on her way to becoming an icon, definitely icon. We're definitely going to see a lot of cosplays for her. And I was telling, we interviewed David before you, and I told him you guys got to get the both of them in makeup together for a con and do a photo op together with the both of them. That would be amazing. Yeah. All right, just a couple more before we let you go, Damien. So this second film, like we've been saying, it's even more sick and depraved as the first movie. And congratulations, you're the one responsible for it all. So, as, a writer, do you have to go into a special sort of, mindset or place in your mind when coming up with some of these sicker, kills and whatnot?
Yeah, I suppose you do, but it's never something where I have trouble coping or I have any kind of psychological disorder. I mean, it comes pretty natural to me to come up with these things because I'm so well versed in horror and I've been obsessed with horror movies since I'm a little kid. But people think I'm either lying or they don't believe it when I tell them that I actually do not like real gore. If someone I have problems watching surgeries and things like that. If something happens in reality and my fight or flight kicks in, it's like I could deal with that. I could help somebody who's bleeding or something like that. But if someone just shows me a picture of somebody mutilated, or I have friends who are cops and they are so desensitized, and cops have pictures like that on their phone and they'll show me and I'll be like, I don't want to see that. I don't want to see that. Well, when it comes to something fictional, yeah, I don't mind doing some research or looking through a book of Jack the Ripper's victims or something like that. But I don't know. The reason why I don't mind putting such sort of extreme gore in these movies is because there is sort of in this one especially, there's a big fantasy element where it kind of eases, I would assume it would ease the audience in a little bit more. Whereas if you had a movie that was as grounded as Henry Portrait of a Serial Killer or something like that, you leave a movie like that feeling very sort of, bleak and grim. The world is such a darker place. But when you leave Terrifier, I think you leave realizing you just saw a movie, and maybe it's a little easier. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So I guess my last question would be, do you see an end game for Terrifier and Art the Clown, or do you see this going on for decades to come?
I do see an end game. I actually know how at this point I would end perhaps a trilogy. I've been saying I'd like to make at least one more, because my biggest fear, just being the writer, is the well running dry, and then there's nothing left to say, and we start really repeating ourselves, and everything just starts getting stale. So that's my concern. There's a lot of things left that I want to do with Art, though. Lots of situations for me to put him in scenarios that I know would be amazing and hysterical, and a lot of horrific things I could do with him as well. But I do have a solid end game in mind, but you never know. I'm never satisfied with an idea. So until it is set in stone in the editing room and it's shipped off, I will constantly be thinking of better ideas or different directions I could take it in. So we'll see.
Yeah. So what you're saying is we probably won't see Art in space.
I don't think so. Maybe Vegas.
Okay. All right. All right. Well, Damien, that's all the time we have, unfortunately, because I feel like I could have talked to you all night about horror and everything else, but it's been a pleasure, man.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast, where today we are joined by a very special guest. He exploded onto the horror scene in 2016 as Art the Clown in Terrifier, and now Art is finally back in Terrifier 2, which will be hitting theaters on October 6th, followed by a release to the streaming service Screenbox. Everyone, please welcome Art the Clown himself, David Howard Thornton. David, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, man.
Awesome. So, David, it's been 6 years since we've last seen Art, but his popularity has absolutely grown stronger with each passing year in the horror community. So, obviously, I would assume this was a pretty big, life-changing role for you. Would you say that's accurate?
Oh, most definitely. I no longer have to wait tables for a living. That's great.
Definitely. So, have you had the chance to kind of take a step back and kind of see at how it's all come together for you?
Yeah, and it's still very surreal.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I have to pinch myself from time to time to make sure this is not a dream.
Definitely. Now, you think it would be hard to match the gore from the last movie, but here we are. I watched the movie today, and I was like, holy shit! Like this movie does not hold back at all.
Oh, no.
So, how are you guys able to match the depravity and sickness of that first movie? Top it. Was it a process that you were involved in, or was this all in kind of Damien's sick, twisted mind?
I would say it's primarily Damien's sick, twisted mind, because he definitely took that as a personal challenge. It's like, okay, how do we top the hacksaw scene from the first film? And so, but
Right.
we would like email or text each other back and forth, especially when he had ideas for a kill, because he likes to run ideas by people, and we would just bounce ideas back and forth and sometimes build upon each other's ideas. But I would say most of it is Damien's sick, twisted mind coming into play. And I think he outdid himself in this one, especially with one certain kill, which you are pretty sure you know what I'm talking about.
I absolutely do. There's quite a few ones, but there's that one definitely. I think that will be the one every horror fan will be talking about for years to come, for sure. Now, perhaps, now that obviously was gore and everything was a big surprise. Maybe not a big surprise, but the topping of the first one. But maybe the biggest surprise of the movie is the introduction of what I would call, I guess, little girl art is the character, is how I would call her. She seems to be just as sick and twisted as yourself. So how did you first find out about that character? Did Damien kind of hint you before, or was it when you read the script?
Yeah, that's actually a character, we've definitely tried to keep up in the wraps for a while and stuff like that, because we wanted that one to be a surprise for everybody. But like I think he kind of sort of came up the idea for her like right near the end of Terrifier 1 or shortly after that. And it was just this weird scene where he came up with the idea of like this kid and I doing each other's makeup, and instead of actually doing each other's makeup, we're actually carving up each other's faces. And it just kind of evolved from that. And he put this character into the film, and it was a great way, I think, to explain, in a weird way, the supernatural aspects of art, because that's something we want to address from the start. And I love the character. I think it's such a creepy character, and there's so many possibilities with this character going forward.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And I think she'll be a great little sidekick for you going forward. And I think when people, when the fans finally get to see her in this movie, she's going to be a fan favorite. I would love to see her do some cons. I'd love to see her do some cons with you. I think that'd be awesome.
Oh, that would be great. The funny thing is, the actress that plays her is now Amelie is on soap operas. So that's like she's gone total opposite ends of the spectrum. So I'm so freaking proud of her.
Yeah, definitely. So what was your first reaction when you finally saw her in like the full art makeup? Was it on, when you guys were filming, or were you able to see her kind of previous?
Oh yeah, I got to see her previous, like when we were both getting our makeup done together. Right, so that was kind of like it. But the whole ensemble is like, it's so creepy, especially her teeth, because Damien inverted the teeth. So like her bottom row of teeth are on the top, and the top teeth are on the bottom, and then she's got all that arm hair and all that. It's such a creepy, just design, and she played it so well too.
She really did. She was awesome, and the fans are gonna love her for sure.
Definitely.
Now, so you were given more opportunities in this film to explore, I guess, the goofier side of art. You see a lot more comedy with art in this one. Do you prefer the goofy stuff, or do you like the more sadistic stuff with them?
I've always been a comedy guy, so I do love the comedy. But that's the thing we're always trying to find, is that balance between the goofy side of art and the sinister, creepy side of art, because it's a fine line we have to walk. And so Damien usually has to bring me back from going too goofy with things, because I'm just a natural I'm basically a human cartoon character anyway. And so they'll be like, someone hits me and I have more of a cartoonish reaction. It's like, oh, they're all laughing, but like, that Dave, you can't do that, that's too cartoonish. Like, oh, sorry, I have to make it more realistic now. And but we're always trying to find that balance between the two there.
Yeah, right. So now last time I had interviewed you, we had talked about the difficulty of, playing a completely silent character.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just curious, now that this was kind of your second time stepping into the role, did you find it an easier transition?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. And what I really started doing, especially this time around, is I would just recite lines in my head of what I think Art would be saying in that moment. And that just really helped me just, I guess, emote the way he needed to be emoting in that instance, because it just makes my face naturally react that way, I guess, if that makes sense.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can imagine this. Obviously, must be just like a super fun film to make. Especially with all the amazing practical effects. I just love that Damien keeps all practical and uses basically, I don't think he uses any CGI that I remember in either movie, really.
There's very little.
Yeah.
It's like basically it's only where you could not do it practically. If like you actually had someone's decapitated head or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
you had to have the face still move or something like that.
Okay.
That's where he would use it, but he would map it on there, and it's so seamless the way he's done it.
It was, because I really thought those were just like prop heads that he
Most
created.
I would say 90% of the time it is, but there's those few instances, especially with that infamous kill where he had the prop and then he superimposed the actor or actress's face on top of that, so it would blend.
Mm-hmm. So obviously there's a lot of very, very memorable scenes in this movie, but do you have one that sticks out, I guess, as your favorite, or perhaps just like a story you have on set that was your favorite?
I would say probably the Clown Cafe was one of my favorite days.
Yes.
Favorite weeks, really, because that took about a week to shoot that whole entire scene, and it was just so much fun because we had all the Indiegogo campaign people there as well.
Oh, that's awesome.
So they were like some of the extras that got slaughtered in the scene. So it was like their infectious energy of being on a set just fed all of our energy. Plus, I got to use some cool props in that, especially that flamethrower. So I was like, I was like a big kid on set that week. I was having a blast. Plus, I didn't have to get covered in blood and stuff like that too. So I was like, oh, I don't have to be sticky for once. This is nice.
Right. That's awesome. And I gotta ask, the end sequence here that takes place in this sort of Halloween funhouse, was that a built set, or was that something that was kind of like used over?
That's a real location. It
is a real location. Wow.
Yeah, Fright Factory in Philadelphia, and so that was great because that saved us a buttload of money in time because we didn't have to build any of that. That was all right there, so you can go through that haunted house and actually see those locations from the film.
Oh, that's awesome. And all the fans are going to be jumping to that location now after this movie releases.
Oh, definitely. Definitely.
That's awesome. All right, just a couple more questions for you, David. I know obviously the big question I'm sure you've been getting through all of this press tour is, when will we see Art the Clown again? So are there plans already in place? Are you guys looking into doing crowdfunding again if we do see a third movie, or what's the idea?
Oh, we definitely want to do a third film. There's no doubt about that, as you can tell by the mid-credits scene, I guess you could say.
Right.
So, but yeah, when that's going to happen, hopefully sooner than later. It just all depends, how well this film's received. It's also with the Indiegogo campaign. I'm like, if we're really successful, that might already just pay for part 3. Who knows? But I think we're of course contemplating doing another Indiegogo campaign because it was very successful having the fans involved in it that way. It's kind of more special that way.
Definitely. So just one last question for you, a fun one to end off with you. So if you could join forces with another famous horror clown, who would it be and why?
Oh gosh, see, most people would think Pennywise.
Right.
But I would say it's a lesser known film, but I think it deserves a lot more love and recognition than it gets, would be Papa Corn from Circus of the Dead, because I think both Papa Corn and Art are they're so much alike in so many ways, especially with their depravity. And I think that would be a fun combination there.
Absolutely, yeah. And if no one has seen, we actually interviewed Billy Pond on the show before, and he's a fantastic guy, great director, really
love
nice
him.
guy, yeah. And we would love, Papa Corn, Art the Clown team up. I absolutely love it.
Yeah,
let's make it happen, folks.
It's basically
well,
Papa's covering the southern U.S. I'm covering the northern U.S. There you go.
Perfect. Yeah, best of both worlds. All right. Well, David, that's about all the time I have with you. I'd talk to you all night if I could, but I appreciate all the time. And everyone, definitely make sure you go check out Terrifier 2. Is there anything else you got coming up, David, or anything else you'd like to promote, or maybe any convention appearances you got coming up soon?
Yeah, I got this other film called Stream that I'm almost finished filming that should be coming out next year. Got another horror film that hasn't been officially announced yet. This should hopefully be coming out this Christmas. It's a horror film based in around the Christmas season on a very popular Christmas story that might make your heart grow 3 sizes. So that's a hint for you.
All right.
So yeah, so there's a lot of fun stuff coming your way. Also got another film I'm going to be filming next year called The Dead Place that we're about to do an Indiegogo campaign for that as well, or one of those type of campaigns. So yeah.
All right. Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. All right, David, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Take care, man.
All right. Thanks. Bye. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Horror Squad podcast, where today we are joined by a very special guest. She plays the character of Sienna in the highly anticipated Terrifier 2, which will be hitting theaters on October 6th. Please welcome actress Lauren LaVera. Lauren, thank you so much for joining us today. How are you?
I'm well. Thank you so much for having me. Sorry, that's my cat. He's being really annoying. Meowing and being annoying.
No problem. So why don't you start by telling us how you got involved in Terrifier 2?
Yeah, just like anything. I had only started acting about 2 years before I auditioned for Terrifier 2. And that was the summer of 2019 that I started auditioning. And I got it just like any other audition. My agent sent me the sides, which are basically scenes for the character. And I did 2 self-tapes for that at home, and then 1 in-person chemistry read with Elliot Fulham, who plays Jonathan, my brother, and Casey, who plays Allie. And he told me that day in person, you got the part. And I was like, great, let's do it.
Perfect. Now, had you seen All Hallows Eve, of course, and Terrifier, the first one? I'm sure you went and saw Terrifier, the first one, after you read the script, or had you seen a previous?
So I was familiar with it. And also I had seen the poster on Netflix, like that cool Art the Clown poster. I was like, oh, I gotta see that. I ended up not having time when I got the audition to watch it. So I was like, all right, let me just do this audition real quick. And I did. And then by the time I had my next callback, I didn't have time to watch it. So by my 3rd in-person audition, I was like, all right, I haven't watched the film. He likes what I'm doing. I'm not going to watch it and be influenced and then, do something crazy. So I ended up not watching it until I was cast. So I watched it that same day. I went home, watched it immediately, and I loved it. And I've watched it 3 times this Halloween season. I watched it before, but only this Halloween season since July, because that's when it starts for me. I've watched it 3 times, and I'll probably watch it again. I was just like, it was so unique, and the choices that Damien made were so risky, and I loved that as an artist. So I love it. And I was like, all right, don't know what I got myself into, but I guess we're good.
Right. And I mean, David Howard Thornton, just amazing as Art the Clown. He can be both chilling and hilarious. So while filming with him, did you find yourself laughing more with him or being a little scared of him?
I think laughing more, mainly because between action and cut, he's Art, but all around those times, he's Dave, and he's just a goofball, and it's charmingly so. So he's a ham as well. So he's constantly doing like impersonations and, these silly voices, and you're just like you just have to laugh. And that's how he keeps, I think, energy up, which is, so I'm so grateful to have a scene partner like that, who's able to let go of the character. He's not too much of a method actor. So after cut, he's not acting crazy or anything. So I was very happy about that. There were definitely times that I was scared watching him because he's so good at what he does. And I do have a fear of clowns. So even, that's to both Dave and Damien's credit, because Damien did wonderfully with the prosthetic and the art. And then Dave bringing him to life. So yeah, he's chilling. He's horrifying. So there were definitely times I was legitimately afraid.
Nice. Now your character Sienna, she can be quite the badass in this film, especially towards the end. So did you try to channel any badass female characters from other films, or was that kind of your own inspiration?
Yeah, before we even started filming, I was really annoying with Damien, asking him questions about Sienna, giving my own thoughts about Sienna. And I asked him, like, hey, are there any characters, any final girls that inspire you and that maybe, might be similar to Sienna? And he gave me a whole list of movies. It was the best type of homework. So I watched like Halloween, Scream, I watched Alien, I watched Terminator, like all of these incredible final girls that we still hold in such high regard. And I have a whole notebook. Well, it's really a binder. It's a pamphlet of notes that I wrote. I still have it somewhere. And like just characteristics that I thought were from those final girls that Sienna could align with. And I presented it to him and I was like, this is what I think Sienna is. What do you think? And he was like, yeah, absolutely. All those things. And he also made a playlist for me because he knows that music helps me get where I need to be. So I listened to music and I had my notebook, and that was how I channeled Sienna. And it was definitely, she was inspired by a lot of final girls, different aspects of final girls, but yeah, very much so.
Awesome. So out of the homework he gave you, did you have a favorite film in particular that you watched for the homework?
It's such a biased, it's really biased because I already love Halloween 1978. It's probably my favorite Halloween watch. I mean, Laurie Strode is like the epitome of the greatest final girl in my humble opinion. But like they were all so fun to watch, and I watched them multiple times, and I fell in love all over again with Sidney Prescott, because she's just amazing. And Scream is a wonderful franchise. So, I mean, it was just the best homework. Halloween was probably my favorite to watch just because it always has been, but I loved watching them all.
Excellent choice. So, I mean, there are many fun, and also jaw-droppingly like crazy moments in this film. And I can imagine, it must have been a pretty, fun, but also unique film to make. So do you have any favorite scenes or stories from the set?
Well, my favorite stories were after cut, we would get together a lot and we would drink and party and dance because we all stayed in the same space. So it was a cathartic experience to be able to celebrate together all the hard work and the harrowing experience we had the day before. My favorite scenes are probably some of the death scenes. Like, you've seen the film, right?
We did, yeah.
So, I mean, people are already affectionately referring to Allie's kill as the bedroom kill, and it's gnarly. I remember when I first read the script, I went over that scene 4 or 5 times. Like, I just had to read it again because I was so like, what did I just read? And it played almost exactly how it was read. So Damien had such a clear understanding and view of what he had to do. My favorite experience and the thing that just impressed me the most was from Brooke's kill when he throws the acid on her face. They used condoms with the bubbles on her face, and I was like, that's genius. That is so innovative, and I just really appreciated a lot of the thought that put into and creativity that was put into these kills. So many things. I could talk about it all day, but probably stand out the most.
You had mentioned that Damien gave you a list of music to prepare for this role. What kind of music did he give you, and what kind of music inspires you to play this role?
A lot of Fleetwood Mac. He loves Fleetwood Mac. He wrote Sienna based on himself. Sienna is a lot of Damien. Like, there was like she orders a drink, and I was like, she should order a rum and coke because this is Damien's favorite beverage. He wrote it based off himself, based off of his sisters and some of the other women in his life. Fleetwood Mac is a lot of what the Chromatics. There was a song by the Chromatics called I'm on Fire. And whenever I hear it, I immediately think of Sienna because she's kind of associated with fire in a lot of ways in this film, both literally and emotionally. So whenever I hear Fleetwood Mac, Stevie Nicks, and the Chromatics, I'm like, Sienna. And I still listen to this playlist to this day just for fun. I love it.
Nice. Now, just a couple more for you. I'm sure a lot of people have been asking you this, and with good reason, because your character was fantastic in this movie. So will we see Sienna for Terrifier 3 possibly, or have there at least been any talks? I'm sure maybe you need to be a little tight-lipped about this, but perhaps you can kind of give us a little tease.
Well, I will say this. When I was originally cast for Terrifier 2, I went out to dinner with Dave and Damien, and one of the things Dave had said to me, like, he wasn't even drunk, he just said this. He was like, so Sienna's gonna be the Batman to Art's Joker. And I remember being like, dude, that's a lot. That's a lot to say. And he was like, I'm telling you. And I look at Damien and he's like, yeah, she will be. So I'm like, all right. So that's that. I think that's the ultimate goal. But I guess we'll see how Terrifier 2 continues to be perceived. I would love that, but ultimately it's up to the fans and it's up to Damien.
Mm-hmm. Well, I gotta say, I personally hope that we hope definitely see you in the next film, because I absolutely love the Sienna character. Lauren, we're definitely running low on time. I really could talk to you all day because you seem like a great person and seem to be like a pretty good horror fan. You know, are you a big horror fan, or would you say this movie kind of turned you on to horror?
I am a huge horror fan. One of my earliest memories is watching Poltergeist as a baby. Like, I was a baby. I probably shouldn't have. And that's where my fear of clowns arose, because of that iconic clown bedroom scene in Poltergeist. Like, it still haunts me to this day. But I mean, that birthed a very, very enthusiastic horror fan. And I've been watching a scary movie every night. So if you have any like obscure recommendations, like, please give it to me. I'll watch it tonight.
All right. Ooh, you put me on the spot. I don't got anything off the top of my head right now, but well, we just reviewed Barbarian, which just hit theaters recently, and that was really good actually. So I'd recommend it. And yeah, I think that's really it, Lauren. So before we let you go, is there anything else you got coming out in the works, or anything else you'd like to promote before we let you go?
I just wrapped a film with Bill Moseley called The Fetus. I play his daughter in the film, and he was the main reason why I wanted to work on the project, because I'm such a huge fan. He's the amount of dad jokes that guy brought to set was just unparalleled. He's a joy. And not only that, but Julian Curtis, who plays my significant other in the film, he was brilliant, and just the entire cast and crew was amazing. So that's, in post-production and other things that I can't really talk about, but there's that.
All right, awesome. Well, Bill Moseley, I'm definitely looking forward to seeing that, and hopefully we'll see you at a con soon, because now that you did Terrifier 2, I would love to see you at a horror convention coming up.
I will be in Spookala, and I think that it's Florida, December 17th and 18th, so maybe I'll see you there.
There you go. Perfect.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren. Hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. Thank you guys so much. Have a wonderful day.
Have a great one.
Thank you. Bye.